Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Anna Manuel. A new climate change proposition is on the table as part of the delayed New York State budget deal. Big Fox's Josh Feldberg tells us what this potential change could mean for future homes.
New York could become the first state to ban natural gas in new buildings, which would include a ban on gas stoves. If approved, the ban would not take effect until late 2025 and would not apply to current gas stove owners. A similar ban has already been passed in New York City, which will take effect this December for buildings that are less than 7 stories tall. Environmental groups have been lobbying for natural gas bans in the state for years. These groups feel this is an important step to reducing New York's dependence on fossil fuels and meeting the state's emission reduction goals. Some are also pointing to health and safety reasons for the ban, as it would reduce exposure to poisonous gases such as carbon monoxide in homes. Those in opposition to the ban are pointing to electrical reliability issues as a reason for pushback. If new buildings are being constructed in areas where the electrical capacity is lower, what happens if the grid does not have sufficient energy to power these new buildings and appliances? According to Governor Hochul, the state is still fine-tuning the proposal ahead of the budget vote. Certain exceptions may be included that would allow some facilities to use fossil fuels as emergency power sources. The budget vote, which will dictate the outcome of the ban, is expected to happen as early as next week. Josh Feldberg, Big Fox News, Corning.
New York State Police recently busted more than 18 Finger Lakes region locals in a child trafficking ring, and one of those suspects is pleading guilty. Andrew Daughtry of Dundee pleaded guilty to multiple charges. He's been sentenced to 40 years to life by Yates County District Attorney Todd Casella. Daughtry, with 17 others, allegedly abused the same minor over the span of 7 years. Pennsylvania has become the first state in the nation to require free coverage for services related to breast cancer for those patients considered to be high risk. The services include things like genetic testing, breast imaging, and counseling. Jerry Willis takes a look.
Done. Yeah.
Governor Josh Shapiro signing into law a bill that provides MRIs, ultrasounds, genetic testing, as well as counseling for everyone considered high risk for breast cancer, all for free. Since 2015, the state has required free 3D mammograms for all Pennsylvania women, whether they were high risk or not. But today, the state took preventative care even further.
This bill is critically important. It's going to save the lives of women all across Pennsylvania, and I hope other states do follow suit. It's common sense, it's bipartisan, and we know that it can have a meaningful impact on women all across this country.
This first-in-the-nation legislation was sponsored by breast cancer survivor and state Senate President Kim Ward. Ward, who was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer 2 weeks after assuming her Senate leadership position, was denied insurance coverage for genetic testing, even though her grandmother had breast cancer.
Had I known I had a BRCA gene, for example, I would have had that mastectomy years ago and maybe never had chemo or lumpectomy.
State legislators, Democrats and Republicans, voted unanimously to pass the bill, and they hope other states will follow their lead.
I'm thrilled for what's happening today, and I'm so filled with optimism and hope for all that we'll accomplish together tomorrow.
Ward says early testing makes sense because it saves dollars, cents, and lives, and insurers have finally started coming on board. Insurers Ward spoke to agree more extensive testing will ultimately decrease costs for them. In New York, Jerry Willis, Fox News.
If you're looking to learn CPR, the Corning Rotary Club will be offering 2 free training sessions later this month. The training will take place on May 20th at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the East Corning Fire Hall. The 90-minute classes are limited to 8 people each. Registration is available now by contacting the Corning Rotary Club. Congress seems to work best when it's up against a deadline, and this latest deadline is coming up fast. In less than a month, the U.S. will default on its debt and put the entire economy at risk. Alexandria Hoff reports on the latest from Washington.
As the saying goes, time is money, and Congress is running out of both fast. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the government could run out of cash to pay its bills by June 1st, unless Congress extends the credit line. But some question if that deadline is accurate.
Janet Yellen is trying to push forward this fear-mongering tactic to get a deal, a negotiation across.
Whether default could come that fast or not, it has given lawmakers a much-needed nudge.
Sometimes Washington responds better to the pressure.
After refusing for weeks to negotiate, President Biden has called House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and other leaders to the White House next week to talk about the looming crisis.
America is not a deadbeat nation. We have never, ever failed to meet the debt.
So far, negotiations have looked like a game of chicken. Some Democrats want to simply raise the debt ceiling and move on, but that won't appease conservatives looking to rein in spending. Last week, House Republicans passed a bill tying a debt limit hike to $4.8 trillion in deficit reduction.
It reads less like a plan for averting default and more like a House Freedom Caucus manifesto.
Members on both sides are now pushing the president to hammer out a deal with McCarthy. The two haven't met since February.
The ball's in Joe Biden's court. It's up to him now. The pressure's on him.
Financial experts are looking at the markets as these negotiations play out, just as the Fed meets Tuesday to discuss another possible interest rate hike. In Washington, Alexandria Hoff, Fox News.
Want to listen to local music but don't know where to find it? Look no further. Our Maggie Hall spoke to the founder of Elmira Valley Radio, your one stop for local bands and musicians.
The Twin Tiers is full of many talented musical artists. However, Alex Chichester was struggling to find them. So he created Elmira Valley Radio, a one-stop shop for others like himself to discover new local musical artists and bands.
So when I make things, I like to make things that solve a problem that I'm having. So for me, it was, I just didn't know very much about the local music scene, and I wanted to tap into that and see kind of, what was going on in the local music scene. And I figured that other people might be having this problem too. And so I wanted to make some kind of hub, some kind of thing for people to be able to find local musicians. And I figured internet radio station might be a fun way to do that.
You can find Elmira Valley Radio online at elmiravalleyradio.com. From there, all you have to do is hit play.
What I'm hoping for is I'm hoping that this gets people to understand that the local music scene is pretty expansive.
The station plays a range of genres from rap to folk music.
Yeah, so you can find our radio at elmiravalleyradio.com, and you can find us on Facebook, same thing, Elmira Valley Radio on Facebook. We're hoping to do more stations and do more music.
You could discover a local musician or band today. Maggie Hall, Big Fox News, Elmira.
Still ahead, we have your complete forecast.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
The weather pattern has been fairly stagnant as we've been working our way out of April and into May, and we still have a few more days to battle. Now, we've at least brought in some recorded precipitation since Friday, where we are looking at even these 4 days totaling up to just about 1 inch and 3/10, and we still have rain showers that we were seeing today to add into that, and we still could potentially have another 48 hours that we're tracking accumulating rainfall. So know that we had more of a popcorn-like shower setup today. We were seeing just some hit or miss shower chances, but we are going to know that's become a little bit more consistent as we roll into our Thursday, as what we are going to be tracking is that the low pressure system is going to be swinging on through the area. Now that does bring us underneath that low, which means that this is going to be the coldest point that we are within, meaning that low temperatures are falling within those mid 30s, and we'll track through that low with continuous chance for that showery weather. Even noting with temperatures dropping towards those mid to low 30s, there could be some areas of some wintry mix into side of those cooler temperatures. So noting that we'll see that it's not going to accumulate too much, but you could see some of that cooler precip, especially depending on elevation. But the good news is that we are talking gradual improvements. We will see that as we work our way into the weekend. So there is some good news on the horizon. Again, it's just another about 48 hours that we have to work through this cool and gloomy weather pattern, especially for May standards. This is definitely frigid, but we will see that May sunshine, and it's going to stick around for a while. We're not just seeing a day or two of some sunshine. Much of next week is trending to show at least that bright sunshine and those warming temperatures. So first, rolling through the forecast, you can see a little bit more of a widespread pattern. However, the reflectivity of these colors, of these blues and greens, not very strong. So it's not going to be a downpour, but at least that showery weather, again, some of that cooler precip mixing in, not much for accumulation, but we stay underneath the circulation. You can nearly see that circulation hugging here portions of New York, bringing us more of those sporadic showers. And then by Thursday, you really see a pullback of that moisture availability. It's still around. We're still battling that low pressure system and that cloud cover as it works its way off towards the east, but we will be getting better by Thursday, and then the weekend is looking gorgeous. So looking at least another additional 1/10 of an inch, upwards of a 1/2 an inch possible. Again, it will be very dependent on where maybe more of those showers can move on through, but nothing should be overall heavy. It's more going to be some showery weather. If we break up some of those chances, might be able to work in a rumble of thunder, but the risk is very low there. We will look at high temperatures to climb into those 40s, might just touch those 50s, but even hitting those 50s, that's really not going to be what the day is going to feel like. Much of the day feels more like those 30s and those 40s, so bundle up. But the good news is that we will be looking at much better conditions, as we will be brighter by Friday and then warmer as we head our way through our first weekend of May.